Hi guys, my name is Con and welcome to Concade Gaming. In today's video we'll cover off the ins and outs of Neo-Geo MVS collecting in 2024. If you guys haven't seen my game room tour for 2024, which I posted recently, here is a link to it right above there. And I was lucky enough to complete my MVS US and Japanese complete set, and you guys can have a look at that. In this video I will cover off the different tiers of games and the collecting for the MVS and how prices are determined based on what you purchase, the actual card itself, if it's a kit versus not a kit, if it's a Japanese versus USA label. I will also be sharing with you some valuable resources such as must-have websites that every MVS collector uses, just so that you can have a resource to validate your purchases and make an informed decision before you purchase a card, just to ensure that you are not getting scammed or you're not buying bootlegs. I will also cover off the common places to buy MVS cards and the pros and cons and what you can expect. I certainly, as a collector, used quite a few different resources to complete my collection throughout the 3 years that I've been collecting MVS cards. So there's quite a lot of valuable tips that I'm going to share with you. I will also share some of the ways to play MVS. Like I mentioned, MVS is not for everyone, but certainly it doesn't take away from the arcade experience. There is different platforms and different ways you can play original hardware on, and it doesn't mean you have to own an actual arcade cabinet. Also, please stay tuned to this video as I'll be giving away a copy of King of Fighters 94. I will cover all the details later in the video. So in 2021, I started collecting the MVS cards. It's when COVID hit and it became a bit of a hobby just to pass the time. Initially, I wanted to only collect maybe 20 or 30 cards, starting off with the King of Fighters series, the Samurai Showdowns, the Metal Slug, but that quickly turned into a passion, and 20, 30 cards turned into 50, and I just started hunting for bargains and through various sources just to scale up my collection. I have been passionate about Neo-Geo for a very long time. I grew up in the 90s, in the peak of the arcade culture, where Capcom and SNK dominated the arcades. It all started with Street Fighter 2, where all the fighters basically were introduced into the arcades. Then SNK started releasing their fighters like the Samurai Showdown, the World Heroes, and then the King of Fighters 94. So when the King of Fighters came out, that pretty much cemented the platform for me, and I was a big fan ever since. I always remember going after school to the local arcade, putting in a few coins into the arcade machine and playing King of Fighters and the Capcom titles just to pass the time before I could the bus home. But I was a regular at the local arcade, and it was the best time of arcades. You just can't replicate that experience these days. It was a great time to be in. So I started collecting Neo-Geo MVS on the back of the C-Box MVS Super Gun that was released a few years ago, which piqued my interest. At the time I was doing a lot of console modding, so I had a scaler, and basically I bought the C-Box MVS. I anticipated to only buying a few cards, and I started using the C-Box MVS with the scaler on my large screen TV because I really wanted genuine arcade gameplay without any lag or loading or any emulation. Now, Neo-Geo collecting, especially for AES and MVS, is not for everyone. This video will only cover off the MVS cards, which I've collected. And what I notice is that it's slowly, people are getting priced out of MVS collecting. Definitely in the last couple of years, I would say in the last 2 years, I've seen a big increase in prices in the MVS cards, and also a decrease in the quality of cards that you can purchase. I think Neo-Geo collecting is quite popular at the moment, so all the really good cards being absorbed into personal collections, and there isn't too much stuff out there. A lot of the games are still very affordable, but some of the really more sought after, more expensive titles are becoming quite rare. Okay guys, let's talk about Neo-Geo gaming tiers and what you can buy for your money. As far as I'm concerned, there is the low, medium, high, the very high, and the super rare tier of MVS games. And different games fall into the different categories of that. So just to give you guys some examples, let's cover off the low tier. And this typically is for games that cost anywhere from $50 to $100. An example of a low tier game would be Samurai Showdown, Japanese or English title, goes for about $50 Australian, so it's one of the cheaper titles. Now, the reason some games are on the lower tier is because it's purely based on the amount of cards that were produced, and how many were distributed throughout the world. The next game that's a low tier would be something like a King of Fighters 99. Since I've started collecting Neo-Geo MVS, this game has not really jumped in price that much. You can still buy it for about $50 to $80, and this game has remained at that price point. Some other examples of low tier games would be something like World Heroes, Go Go Go. These games are about $100, as well as some of the King of Fighters games. Now let's talk about the medium tier. This is games for $100 to $300. Some of these games that you can buy for that price will be something like a Samurai Showdown 2 or 3. They go for anywhere between $150 Australian dollars. Or something like The Last Blade. A game like this is about the $200 mark at this point. Some really good games to buy in the middle tier are also the Real Bout Fatal Fury games and the Fatal Fury games. Some of the other games in the medium tier would be the Metal Slug games, 1, 2, 3, and X. The Samurai Showdown games I mentioned before, World Heroes 2 Jet, World Heroes 2 Perfect, Magician Lord, Strikers 1945, Sengoku, and so forth. Okay, let's talk about the high tier, which is games between $300 to $500. Some of the games would be something like Metal Slug 5, will be close to about the $500 mark. King of Fighters 2003 is also about the $500 mark. Nightmare in the Dark, Blazing Star, Ghost Pilots, and Garou, Mark of the Wolves. This game is borderlining the high tier. It always used to remain about the $100 mark over the last couple of years, but it has recently jumped up in price. Now let's talk about the very high tier, which is the $500 to $1,000 mark. An example of games like that will be something like Viewpoint. That tends to be on the rarer side as well, but it's still about $500 to $600. Pulsar is just on the fringes of being the rare, more expensive one. Right now, the market value for Pulsar is about $800 to $900. Samurai Showdown 5 is about $500 to $600, as well as Z-Blade. Fight Fever is also an uncommon title. It's a pretty bad title. I don't really play it, but it is uncommon, and you're looking at about $500 or $600 if you can find it. Another one that's pretty rare and uncommon is Pleasure Goal and Sengoku Free. Now let's talk about some of the rarer titles. A good example of a rare title would be Twinkle Star Sprites. That is way over $1,000 now, just loose. Another one is Matrimeli. Now Matrimeli is gone up in value a lot. So if you're a collector and you're looking for a full set, I would definitely recommend to get that game. Another game that's really rare and expensive and hard to find is the Irritating Maze. It's one of the last games I picked up to complete my set, just purely because it was so hard to get. So I would definitely recommend keep an eye out for Irritating Maze. It does dictate some big money these days, well over $1,000. Another really expensive game as of late is Samurai Showdown 5. Used to be able to buy full kits from Japan a few years ago. I was very fortunate enough to buy Samurai Showdown 5 directly from Japan, brand new, in a complete kit for about $1,000 Australian dollars, and this was about 2 years ago. Well and truly that is close to double now, and it's not very common. It still does appear on eBay from time to time, but it's definitely one of those harder to get titles. Another difficult game to get, which is the Rare Tier, would be Ganryu. That game, my understanding, was used as a repro game, so people used to pull out the chips and convert it to another game, so there wasn't too many copies available. The one thing you have to remember with Ganryu is that there is quite a few out there, but they tend to be in bad quality. I've seen quite a few for sale that go well over $1,000. However, if you inspect the PCBs, a lot of them have trace damage or corrosion. So make sure if you pick up a Ganryu, it is verified, it is working, and when you get really nice clear pictures of the PCBs, just to make sure that it is in good condition. Another important thing to look out for is kits. A lot of people collect kits, which means as an MVS game, it used to come in a cardboard box for the arcade operators. The kit comes with the actual game. This is a brand new kit of Auto Fighting and a sealed instruction manual and the dip sheet. Now the price can be significant if you have a full kit or not. So for example, Art of Fighting is a $50 game, so it's on a lower tier. But if you have a kit that is matching serial number to the actual card, the price can double, triple, or even quadruple in value. So an Art of Fighting card loose will be about $50, but a matching new kit like this in this condition would more than likely fetch about $150. The price will vary in between, based if you have the complete art kit, the condition of the card, the label, if the art kit obviously is missing bits and pieces, etc. Some games are extremely expensive, where it comes down to full kits. A good example of that would be Ganryu. So I'm very fortunate enough to have 2 copies of full kits of Ganryu. Like I mentioned before, it's a rare title, and it goes for about $1,000. But a full kit with a matching serial number can go anywhere between $2,000 and $3,000. Some other rare titles, if you have a full matching kit, can also dramatically increase in value because it is quite rare, and not a lot of full kits in good condition exist anymore. Now let's talk about valuable resources and the websites that every MVS collector needs to be aware of and use over time. The first one we're going to talk about is Neo-Geo MVS Game's website. And basically this shows all the US and Japanese release games that are in the actual SNK library. And the good thing about this is that if you click on the game, it does show you a picture of the labels, and it does show you a picture of the PCBs. So as you can see, the NGH number on the chips is 030, and that correlates to 2020 Super Baseball, for example. Now the other website that you want to look at is the Neo-Geo Master List. So that basically takes that number which we saw in the EEPROM and gives you a confirmation of the actual title. So when we look at 2020 Super Baseball, which was number 30, we can see that they actually correlate. So this is a really good indication when you look at sold listings and PCB listings. You can see that the number on the EEPROMs match the actual Neo-Geo Master List, and that it also matches the PCB scans. So let's look at King of Fighters 94, for example. Again, that's the label. There are many variations of PCBs that were released. So most of the variations are actually up and have been uploaded. So it's very unusual to find a PCB that actually hasn't been scanned into the MVS Scans website. But again, if we look at the EEPROM, the number is 055 for King of Fighters 94. And if we refer to the website here, 55 is King of Fighters 94. So if you purchase a game that has a really bad quality label, or no label at all, you can actually go into this website and download a label, replacement label if you want, and just print them out yourself. Now, what you might find is that all of these labels have an NGH number. So if you ever see a listing on eBay that has this type of label with an NGH number, that means it's a reproduction label. So just be aware of that. I will provide links to these 3 websites in the description of the video. Now let's talk about bootlegs, what's out there and how to spot them. So if we look at the original games first of all, there is a few exceptions to the rule which might confuse some people. So as you guys saying, if we look at an original MVS games on MVS scans, original games tend not to have any EEPROMs or writable chips in them with UV window, and across most of the games you're gonna have the NGH number, which we looked at previously, which we can validate across the MVS master list. So again, this one being 007, which is Alpha Mission, one of the early releases, and 007 being that. So we know straight away that is a genuine game. Now, there are some exceptions that you need to be aware of, and one of them would be, as an example, King of Fighters 96. So you might see stuff like this, where this is actually a genuine King of Fighters 96 board, and this was actually a EEPROM replacement done by SNK themselves. And you typically find these with EEPROMs, mix of EEPROMs with a color coding, so that's very important. With original EEPROMs, 214 King of Fighters 96. Again, King of Fighters 96, so that's genuine, and that's actually a genuine card. You might also find a replacement EEPROM in the M1. An exception to the rule is Puzzle Bubble. So this is actually probably the most commonly bootlegged game out there, and it's actually quite difficult to find a genuine Puzzle Bubble card. But you know, if you look at the MVS scans, you can compare the boards to the listing. But as you can see, the EP1 has a programmable EEPROM, but the rest are genuine SNK chips. So especially with Puzzle Bubble, if you're looking at a listing online, they're not super expensive. Make sure that you are checking the listing with the PCB pictures and comparing that to the actual MVS scans website. So right here you can see a bootleg. However, this is a prototype game called Ghostlop, which I have, and you can't buy this original, so Ghostlop will always come as a conversion or a reproduction made by people. And you know, you can see clearly that it's been programmed and it's got programmable chips in there. Most of the UV chips have a little window sticker on them. That's good practice, so that, you know, if sunlight goes through the card, which it shouldn't if it's a black case, the EEPROM will not be affected in terms of the data. And this is an example of poster conversion or a bootleg. So it's got MX chips which don't have the SNK labels, so it's a mix of basically erasable, UV erasable, and a and an MX erasable chips as well. So this is quite common as well. So I suppose case in point, guys, is always check your listings when purchasing, especially the more expensive games, just to validate. Another source of bootlegs, and this is quite recent, the last 2 years or so, starting from 2022, is the AliExpress bootlegs, and they look pretty good in terms of, you know, the case and the labels and things like that, but it's quite deceptive. They don't have any serial numbers, which is a good indicator, but if you look at Robot Fatal Fury 2, it looks like a genuine card because it's got the labels, the label looks good. It doesn't have the NGH. The Metal Slug 4 clearly looks wrong, but the other games, you know, you could have been confused if you were looking at it through eBay listings. So again, good idea to always confirm that these are the boards inside. Now, when bootlegs showed up in AliExpress, they typically came looking like this, which had the clear case, so you can see that it's definitely not a genuine game. This is a Samurai Shodown V Perfect. So this is a game that was released and dumped a few years ago. And this is actually a good game as an example to get as a reproduction, because this was never officially released by SNK. So if you're going to buy a bootleg or a conversion from original hardware store, this is a good game to get. But this is a respectable seller, I guess. He's doing the right thing by not representing this as a genuine game. Obviously, the games never came in a clear green, and you'll be able to see through the PCBs only half size. All Neo-Geo MVS PCBs are full size. So, you know, it's not going to trick anyone. Now let's talk about eBay as a common place to buy Neo-Geo games. A lot of you guys will instinctively go to eBay, and it's usually the first place that people buy MVS cards from. The prices do tend to fluctuate, but there is quite a lot of red flags and things you have to watch out for. So what I'm going to do is cover off some current listings and go through them and give you guys some tips and things that I actually look out for to look if the games are genuine and the ways we can compare these. So I tend to just search for MVS, and it defaults to my item location being Australia because I'm based in Australia, but you can certainly look at items worldwide. The thing about purchasing items from overseas is any duty, and you know, things tend to take much longer to arrive and can be more expensive. So I tend to look at Australia first, and you can buy quite a lot of games which are local to your country of origin. So the first game I wanted to look at is this one here, which is the Burning Fight, which is going for 155 Australian dollars. Now this game is a good indication of a listing. The seller, who I do know, shows the actual condition of the cart, label, and the boards. He also shows the back of the boards, which is important, and the front of the boards. Okay, you can see the NGH number on the chip, which is 018. If we go to the MVS Scans website, if we look at Burning Fight, the label match, and it's 018. So straight away we know that the game is authentic. The other good thing that the seller did is provide screenshots of the game and a description. Now the description says it's original, it's got the English label which is damaged, it's tested and fully working. The only thing I would say about this particular listing is that tested and fully working doesn't mean that there is no graphical or sound issues. A game can be working, but you know, the cards are quite old now. There is such a thing as trace damage, and we can see that there isn't any in this particular card. Also, EPROMs can become corrupted over time, so you might get glitching with sound and video. What I found is that if you're getting artifacts in the video or the graphics, that almost in all cases, if you can't see any physical damage or trace damage to the boards, is that it's just dirty contacts. And if you clean the contacts with a eraser or a isopropyl alcohol, that tends to get rid of any graphical issues due to oxidation or dirt. Now the next game I wanted to look at is King of Fighters 99. So a lot of the King of Fighters games on the lower tier of MVS collecting. And you can, if you are a fighting fan, you would most definitely want to collect the set of all the King of Fighters games, which is from 94 to 2003. And some of the King of Fighters games have remained quite cheap and affordable. And King of Fighters 99 is a good example of that. So since I've been collecting for the last couple of years, the price of King of Fighters 99 has remained between the 50 to 80 Australian dollars. And the simple answer to that it was manufactured in large quantities. And again, we can see the seller provided pictures of the game working. So it's a really good starter card to purchase. The exception to the King of Fighters series is, I would say, King of Fighters 2002 and 2003. These were the later releases for SNK, and the prices for 2002 is about the 250 Australian dollars, which is quite normal. Although the seller has not provided any board picks in this one, but it's a Japanese label 2002. And if we go to MVS scans, we can see that the label matches. The other thing I want to show is King of Fighters 2003. So this game, if we look at MVS scans, the cartridge version was a USA exclusive. So if you're a card collector for your Neo-Geo MVS collection, you want the card version. But the one thing you need to be aware of is that the card version of this game is quite expensive. It's between 500 to 800 Australian dollars. And the reason for that is that, again, it was a limited supply, which was USA only. And it was one of the last games released by SNK before they ceased to operate and manufacture MVS. So let's have a look at the MVS 2003. So this one's in really good condition. It's a loose card only. And the seller does provide the board picks, which is 271. And if we look at MVS scans again, we can see 271, which matches. Now, King of Fighters 2003 also came out in Japan as a standalone PCB board. It's half the cost of the MVS card. So you have a choice. If you have an arcade cabinet, you want a PCB at a smaller price, or an MVS card for double the price. The only caveat with King of Fighters 2003 is that you cannot change the language to English on the actual PCB. The BIOS is integrated, which is here, SPJ, into the actual PCB, and there is no option to change the language to English. SNK versus Capcom also came on a PCB like this. However, you can actually change the language in the BIOS in that one to English if you choose. But SNK versus Capcom was also a release in a MVS cartridge and a PCB. As you can see here, USA only, so the cartridge in US and a PCB in Japan. So another good indicator of prices for MVS cards is to look at eBay sold listings. So if you actually go to advanced in eBay, type in MVS and click on sold. I tend to look at Australia first. You can look international, but that will show you all the recent MVS cards that were sold, which is a really good indicator of the market price. So if you look at Metal Slug 4, a Japanese full kit sold recently for 135 Australian dollars, which is like $100 US, and this is dirt cheap. It's a Japanese label, but the kit is brand new and it looks in really good condition. The art kit looks unopened as well. It's complete. There's a seal here. And this kit would more than likely go for $500, $600, $700. So whoever bought this got a really good deal. Another game that sold recently was Zupapa. That's one of the more uncommon titles. I bought this game about 2 years ago for $300 from Australia, and this game has increased to $500 2 years later. So again, as you can see, the more uncommon titles tend to keep going up in price every year. The next listing I wanted to look at is this Metal Slug set that was sold for 900 Australian dollars. which I believe was the actual sale price. And let's look at that in more detail. Okay, so straight away, we can see that comes with Shockboxes. These are the Southtown Shockboxes. And, you know, they're quite expensive to get in Australia. The seller is in US from Southtown Homebrew, and I'll leave a link in the description. I used to buy these in a box of 20 every couple of months. And what it worked out with shipping and the cost of the Shockboxes by themselves was about 25 Australian dollars per Shockbox. So in this auction alone, you can see that there is at least $150 worth of Shockboxes alone for sale. But let's look at the cards in more detail. There's a few flags which stand out to me straight away. The first red flag is that Metal Slug 1 doesn't have a serial number on it, just like Metal Slug 2, 3, 5, and X. And Metal Slug 4 also does, the label looks wrong, and there is no serial number. If we look at the description, it says Metal Slug games in very good condition, tested working complete with Shockboxes, any questions asked, right? What the seller failed to say is that these are genuine cards or provide any PCB pictures, right? Also, tested and working doesn't mean that there is no issues with the game. It just simply means that they turn on and he gets a screen. Now, if we quickly jump to MVS scans, Metal Slug English label definitely has a serial number. And Metal Slug 4 also has a serial number, and Metal Slug 4 is one of those games where it's got the text underneath as well. So just by looking at this, I would say that the both of those Metal Slug games will be bootlegs. So 1 and 4, I would say, are bootlegs. Now let's look at some more sold items. The next game I wanted to look at that sold recently was Polestar and Blazing Star, which sold for 650 Australian dollars. Let's have a quick look at that. Now, these two games are rarer, and Polestar is one of those really high value games. Polestar by itself loose, right now in the current market, is about 800 to 1,000 Australian dollar just for the card by itself. Blazing Star is about a $400 game. So you're looking at least $1,200 Australian for both of these cards. Now this is the same seller that sold the Metal Slugs, but in the same listings, he did actually show the PCBs. So obviously, you know, he knew what he was doing, and it's just one of those things, right? So why would you show PCBs in one auction, but not the PCBs in that auction? Now these games, both of these games are 100% genuine, and whoever bought these games got themselves a really, really good deal. If we look at the description, he states the condition, which is very good, I would agree, with the exception of the scratch and the writing on the label. But he again didn't indicate that were genuine, but you can ascertain that by looking at the PCBs. What you might find as well is when you buy original games, especially the US labeled games, the serial numbers would be scribbled out or actually cut out. This is quite common, and the reason behind that is that back in the day, when arcade operators used to buy MVS cards, they had specific distributors that they had to work with, and you know, MVS games at the time would have been quite expensive. So a lot of the distributors would have purchased games from overseas, and to hide the tracks, they would have basically removed the serial numbers so they don't get caught or in trouble from the distributors. So, you know, perfectly genuine, but it is very common to find games which have the serial numbers removed. Another good source to buy MVS games, and certainly for me, is to use Yahoo auctions. The site I'm familiar with and I used was Jauce. It's no different to Buyee or other proxy services. I just like Jauce because I've used it and I had a good experience with it. Now, when I was basically working towards completing my collection, I bought quite a lot of games from Japan. Probably about 30% of my collection is Japanese. So a few years ago, I would have done this, predominantly just buying Japanese games. The advantages of buying Japanese games is the condition. A lot of the Japanese games are actually in very good condition with very good labels. A lot of them come with the art sets of the kits, and there is no difference in terms of the PCBs between a Japanese game and a US release game. The only difference is the label, although the US labeled games tend to be a little bit more expensive. The only thing that you might need to know about Yahoo auctions these days, and I certainly found that in the last 12 months, certainly since 2023, is that there's quite a few more bootlegs being sold on Yahoo auctions, and I found quite a few Chinese sellers selling bootlegs. And with Jauce, not a lot of description actually exists in a lot of these games, so a lot of them are untested. So if you look at buying from Yahoo auctions over the last couple of years, it was a very, very good chance that the game you got was working in good condition because of the Japanese labels. At the time, there wasn't any Japanese reproduction labels. A lot of the reproduction labels were English. So just by visual inspection, you can tell that the game, the condition is good, and that the game is genuine. The Jauce website automatically translates the description. A lot of the descriptions will actually say that the game's been tested, and a lot of sellers would actually include screenshots of the games working, such as this one. So let's see Fatal Fury 3. So this guy shows the actual game working, as well as good details of the card and the condition, and I would say this is a game that's in very good condition for Fatal Fury 3. Okay. The only thing you have to consider when buying through Yahoo auctions or the proxies is that you purchase the game. So let's just use this one as example for 10,800 yen, which is about $110. You're going to have an auction fee on top of that, which is about 15%. Then you might also have a fee on top of that for shipping to the warehouse. And then you're going to have a fee to ship the game back to your country of origin. The good thing about buying through Yahoo auctions is, as I mentioned, the games tend to be in good condition. Sometimes they come with art kits. Now, if you're going to buy quite a lot of games from Japan, the warehouse will keep your games for maybe 30 to 60 days. So you can buy maybe 10, 15 games. Then they will basically pack all the games up and ship it to you in the one parcel. So you can definitely, save some money there, as opposed to using places like eBay. The other game I wanted to show you guys is Matrimeli. So this is the Japanese version of Matrimeli, and this is one of the rarer titles of one of the later releases for SNK. Now, the English version of Matrimeli, which I have a full kit of, is limited to 500 copies, and it has always been the more expensive game to buy. What I've seen with the Japanese version is because the US version is predominantly with MVS collectors who are not willing to sell. So any person that's looking to complete the MVS set is now looking for the Japanese version of the game just to complete the collection. 2 years ago, this game sold for about 50 to 60,000 yen, which is about 500-600 Australian dollars. And in the last couple of years, the price has tripled. So this is one example of a game where the price keeps going up and up. So it's quite expensive to complete your set if you look at a game like this. Now the final place you can buy games is the Neo store. So this has been around for a very long time, and these guys are located in the US. And if we look at the MVS and we search by low to high, you can get games for quite a cheap price. So if you are based in the US, this is also a really good resource and place to purchase the cheaper games. And a lot of them do have the art kit with them, and the full kits are obviously a lot more. But it's sometimes better than eBay. On the flip side, if we look at high to low, there are Japanese kits, and again, you have Matrimeli. A Japanese kit is $2,000, but the loose game, which we looked at earlier, is $1,500, dollars Australian. So if you're a full kit collector or a loose card collector, you have to make a decision, but it is a really big investment. A lot of the rarer games, again, like Poster. So a full kit of Poster is $4,000, and if we look at earlier, this is the Japanese version. I think there is Japanese. Yep, this is the US version right here, with the label that's been scratched out, so the label is in much poorer condition. So again, the person that purchased that Poster cart on eBay loose got a really good deal. But you can clearly see the difference between the loose cart versus the full kit. It's in the thousands. And the simple answer to that is that there just isn't too many full kits out there. It's quite scarce, and hence why it's so valuable. I actually own the full kit of Poster, and it's one of those games that you probably don't want to sell because the value keeps going up and up. But again, this is the Matrimeli US kit, which I was referring to earlier. Okay, so the US kit is actually yellow, and it's limited to 500 units. This is what it looks like, and it's very hard to find this for sale because most collectors actually own this copy, and they're not willing to sell it. So, if you can find this at a good price, I would tend to lean towards getting the US one because of its rarity. But as I mentioned before, a lot of collectors are gravitating towards the Japanese version of the card, just so they can get the game and complete the full sets. However, the price is going up and up and up. So if you are serious about completing your set, it's probably one of the first games I would buy to begin your collection. Another good source of buying games is Facebook groups. I've used Neo-Geo AES and MVS Collectors group. A lot of the members and this group is in the US, and it's a really, really good group of people. I have purchased from them before. Now, there are some sellers there that come from Europe, and the one thing you have to understand is if you buy stuff from Europe, it tends to be a little bit more expensive because of the conversion. If you compare the games to the US releases. So again, you're looking at King of Fighters 2003, and this is a full kit, and it's selling for €500, which is probably about 800 Australian dollars. And if we go back to the previous King of Fighters 2003 loose card listing on eBay, it's probably a better deal to get the full kit via the group versus the loose card through eBay. So, you can get quite good deals through Facebook groups. Another good source of cards is to buy it from other collectors. So about 2 years ago, there was an Australian collector who was selling his whole collection, obviously, and I bought probably about 30 games from him. You can get quite good deals buying in bulk, and in hindsight, I purchased some games which were on the rarer or the high value side, and I got some really good deals in regards to that. The final source I would encourage you guys to look at is to reach out to local arcade operators that have been operating for a very long time. So I knew a local operator for about 20 years, and when I started to collect MVS cards, I did reach out to him and ask him, hey, do you have any MVS cards? He said, yep, I certainly do. It's in my warehouse. Can I come have a look? Yeah, sure. I went to his warehouse. Coincidentally, it was only 30 minutes away, which was great. And I purchased about 30 games from him straight away. Some were full kits, and I got them for really, really good price. So it does actually pay off to think outside of the box and to make some calls and reach out to some local operators because MVS was very popular in the day. So a lot of these operators would have, old stock just sitting there, and not a lot of them do so through eBay. So, it's worth just asking and making a few phone calls. Now, the final website I want to show you guys is Southtown Homebrew. It's run by a guy named Chris, and it's located in the US. As mentioned before, I used to purchase these in box of 20s shipped to Australia, and that came out to be about $25 Australian per box. And these are really high quality. Now, if we add one box into the cart, and we also can go into the MVS inserts, they offer a service where you can pick a insert of a cover to whatever liking you like, and get that printed as well for an extra $3. So if we go to shopping cart, you're looking at $15.20, plus the $3 for label, plus shipping on top of that. So it does add up. So certainly there is an advantage in purchasing in bulk. Now with the actual labels, because they are available for download, you can actually print them out yourself, and I actually did that myself at a local print shop. That way I can control the quality of the paper used, which was semi-gloss, and if I needed to adjust the labels in Photoshop, I did that as well. So every single one of my labels is printed by myself, and you can save a little bit of money when doing it yourself. But certainly the prices do add up. Now another source of Shockboxes in the last 2 years is AliExpress. And as mentioned, I gave you guys the costings of what it costs in bulk to get from Southtown Homebrew, and in my opinion it's still the preferred method. However, you can get Shockboxes now from AliExpress, but the thing you need to keep in mind is that if you're gonna buy one, it's costing me $21 plus shipping, so it actually ends up being more expensive to buy a single one than in bulk. The other thing is the finish on these is not as good. And what I found as well is that the MVS cards don't actually fit the boxes properly, and they're very tight. So I would not recommend to buy these at all. I would recommend to stick to getting it from the original ones from Southtown Homebrew. Another option is to get these paper cardboard sleeve types, which are significantly cheaper, but aesthetically they look pretty nice. I don't really like cardboard. I prefer the Shockbox, but shipping would be cheap. It is certainly better than a loose card, and this might be a really good option for some people. Okay guys, so let's talk about different ways of playing MVS. So obviously, as a Neo-Geo MVS collector, if you guys seen my game room tour, I have my original arcades plus the original cards. So that's the way I chose to collect MVS. But there's certainly different ways of playing MVS cards, and that's priced for everybody. A really popular way, if you go on AliExpress, is to buy the 161-in-1 cards, which are pretty inexpensive. Some of them come with MVS motherboards. So, for example, if we look at this listing, this one actually doesn't come with the MVS motherboard, but essentially you get the card and the actual motherboard. You get a super gun on top of that, and you can be up and playing very easily for $200. The thing about super guns is that they output RGBS, so you tend to need a scaler like an OSSC or a GBS control, a RetroTink, 5X, etc. to basically take the RGBS signal and upscale it to your TV. But you're gonna have a pretty good experience. The other thing to note with these multi-cards, version 1, 2, and 3, so this is the new version 3, right? It does look nicer. It's got a blue shell, comes with a box and a label. The games are the same. There is no difference in the games. They have a little bit beefed up components and more filtering capacitors inside, but you're not actually getting a different set of games. It's also not the complete MVS library. There's quite a lot of duplicates and hacks So that's something to be aware of. So if you're looking for a complete MVS game collection, you are certainly not going to get from 161 in 1. Okay, so this is another one, 161 in 1. This is the older series, version 1. And the list of games on that is the same. Now, the one thing to note is if you're using the UniBIOS 4, there is a pick and mix feature on that, where it basically bypasses the multi-game menu, and it just does an random, demo of the games and things like that. So it's actually compatible with Series 1 card. So if I was to look at the UniBIOS 4 and the compatibility with a multi-game, I would certainly go for Series 1. Okay. Another way to play MVS is to get a Terra Onion Neo SD. Now, these have been out of stock for a long time, and it comes into 2 flavors. It's essentially an EverDrive for your MVS. There is a standard and a Pro edition. Now, if you look at the shop, they've been out of stock for a very, very long time. The Pro is on pre-order, and the standard is out of stock. The standard sells for €349, and the Pro sells for $569. Now, the prime difference between the standard and the Pro is that the standard doesn't support Neo-Geo CD. The FPGA on the Pro has a built-in Neo-Geo CD emulation on it, so you can play Neo-Geo CD ROMs and ISOs on your MVS. The only caveat with that is that Neo-Geo CD sound is not in stereo, it is mono, because JAMA is mono, so you're gonna get that mono sound. So it is a good feature to have, but the feature is taken away by the fact that it's not in stereo. But it is on pre-order. It is one of those expensive products. It's close to $1,000 Australian if you do the conversion. But for this price, I would certainly be looking at the Mr. FPGA or a Mr. K, which I have, and playing that in the arcade cabinet or directly, to your TV via HDMI, and you're gonna get a one-to-one experience. So this is one of those premium products, but in this day and age, I would actually question the value of. In terms of playing the MVS cards, there's a few options. The most popular one at the moment is the OMVS, the Open MVS project. So you basically buy the kit, you buy the MV1C motherboard, which is about $200, so that's about say $400 right there. And then you buy the shell from Laser Bear Industries, and I'll provide the links to this in the description. And you basically build yourself a consoleized Neo-Geo MVS. So as you guys can see, it's made by TikTok Labs. So you have to get the shells 3D printed, and you put your own MV1C motherboard in there, plus the kit parts, and you will end up with a really high quality super gun, which has really good sound and video on it. If I was to build a super gun or use a super gun in this day and age, I would probably lean towards this. The only caveat with this is that it's 3D printed. So, if you're not a fan of 3D printed shells, this might not be for you. But in terms of the quality, gameplay, and video and audio, you can't beat it. It is very good. Another popular super gun is a JNX super gun, but JNX is a member of the Neo-Geo community. He's been around for a very long time, but to my knowledge, he hasn't released any custom super guns for a very long time. Another option is to get a super gun from AliExpress, and there's quite a few. The very latest super gun is in the AES style like this. And it sells for about $170. It looks very nice. So aesthetically, it looks like an AES system. It looks beautiful. Let's have a look at the front. The sticker, this is a sticker, so that's something to be mindful of. And also the video quality is not the best. It's a little bit dull and drab. It certainly doesn't compare to the Open MVS video quality, So if you're a video perfectionist, it's something that you need to be aware of. And obviously you need to have this outputs RGBS, so you need to have a scaler to output a nice video quality. It does have RCA out, but the video quality won't be as good. Now there is some other C-Box Supergun options on AliExpress which are quite good. So I own a red version of this, and this one actually gives you an option to play external JAMA boards, which is what I have. The video and sound quality are quite good. When I got my unit, it actually broke, so I had to replace the MV1C motherboard inside of it. And I do have a video on my channel showing the MV1C motherboard upgraded. I had to replace the motherboard, recap it, and put a UniBIOS 4 on this. These don't come with UniBIOS 4, they came with 3.3. But aesthetically, the box is quite nice. It's not 3D printed. And again, I liked it because it had the option to play external JAMA boards, which I use for my arcade collecting, which was quite good. You can get the same in a non-JAMA version, which is a little bit cheaper. But yeah, it's just another option for you guys. You can also emulate the Neo-Geo on most platforms these days, being the Switch, the PC with MAME and various emulators for free. You can also purchase Neo-Geo games through online subscriptions on the PlayStation Store or the Xbox. So these are widely available, and there is quite a lot of different ways of enjoying and playing Neo-Geo games these days. As mentioned, I'll be giving away a copy of King of Fighters 94. It's a competition open to all my viewers, not just Australia but worldwide. I will be covering the shipping, so at no expense to you. To be in the running to win the copy of the King of Fighters card, I need you to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and in the comments just tell me what your favorite Neo-Geo game is and why. I'll be picking a winner on the 30th of April, and I'll be announcing that and shipping it out to you. This brings us to the end of the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video and you got some value out of it. And if you're planning to start collecting MVS, welcome to the club. It is a passion. It's a really nice community behind it, and it's a really nice collectible console, which, as I mentioned, has gone up in value dramatically and will continue to rise. Thank you for watching, guys. Again, welcome to Concave Gaming. More content to come. Please subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.